Hey everybody, what's going on? Sorry this is not on my big fancy studio microphone. I just wanted to jump on before we get into this episode and let you know that there is a little bit of cursing in this episode. So if this is one that you typically listen to with the kids in the car, on the way home from school, etc., just be aware they may hear some words that they would probably hear on the school bus anyway. But if you don't want to hear that, then maybe save this one for when you're doing some long form cardio, etc. Please enjoy.
Is it Union Forge Fitness that they buy, or is it Cody Loeffler that they buy and they get behind and that they believe in? So at the end of the day, it was an easy decision for me, and I then just inherited Opex Upper Main Line and decided this is the route I was going, and it's been no turning back since, man. And I honestly could not be happier with where I sit right now today.
That is Cody Loeffler this week on the Do It For Yourself podcast. Hey people, how's it going? This week, my guest on the podcast is Cody Loeffler. And Cody is a gym owner. He owns Opex Upper Main Line, which is located in Paoli, Malvern, Pennsylvania area. And Cody is one of the first to open up an Opex in this area, which is more like his area. He's about 45 to 50 minutes from where I am located, but I actually drive past his gym all the time because it's located right next to one of my offices for the company that I work for. So when I saw that he was opening up a new gym and I saw where it was, I was like, man, I would love to get connected with Cody and, really hear about what he's up to. So I reached out, and sure enough, we ended up getting connected, and it was kind of a very quick, like, hey, I don't have anything going on tomorrow. Sounds great. Neither do I. Let's get this interview recorded. So that's how it kind of came about. But I'm really glad that we took the time to do this, and I'm super glad with how that didn't make sense. I'm super happy with how open Cody was for this interview, and we really dive into kind of what it was like working at a gym and taking away what he liked from certain programs and what he didn't like from certain programs to kind of build his own structure and his own way about how he wanted to run his gym. So Cody's gym is a very different setup. Just as a brief overview, we really get into it as part of his interview, but just as a brief kind of introduction, Opex is a gym that does training for everyday kind of average Joes, should we say, with no, not to insult anyone, but it's everyday people who go in and use the gym to train, but it's also athletes. And Cody's main focus is that the everyday person does not need the same training and nutrition plan as the athlete who may be trying to go to CrossFit regionals or whatever the case may be. And the thing that was frustrating him was he was working at various gyms and also just observing from other gyms that those two people were both getting the same plan. They were both taking the same class. They were both doing the same exercises. Everything was exactly the same. However, their goals were wildly different. So Cody wanted to open up Opex as a way to kind of shake up this trend and shake up how people were looking at fitness and nutrition, a kind of a holistic approach to your health. So we get into kind of where Cody was, how he first started. He came from teaching, moved over into the fitness industry, was working at some CrossFit gyms, which led to him opening up his own gym. And, from there we kind of get into the whole story of how he left something that he 100% created and had to walk away from to then start something new, which is Opex. So without getting into too much more of the details, I will let Cody tell his story, and I hope that you really enjoy this interview with Cody. I mean, you can really hear his passion for, this project and opening up Opex Upper Main Line. So I'll let him do the talking, and I hope that you really enjoy this interview with Cody. We got to just roll because, like I said, before we jumped in, I mean, you were already just dropping some bombs on me. So I'm here with Cody Loeffler, and Cody and I, although we're a couple years apart, we actually went to the same high school. And oddly enough, after high school, many years after high school, we got reconnected. I somehow found you on Instagram, and started following you on Instagram, saw that you were into CrossFit, you were competing, and you were working out of CrossFit Explode. And probably then, I don't know, like about a year or so after that, when you introduced me to taking a venti blonde and a tall flat white and mixing them together, we got linked up at the Endurance Sports Expo, which was out at the Philly Expo Center, and that's when you were working with Stark.
Yep, Stark Energy. Yeah.
So we've been connected since then, and I wanted to jump on here with you because just following your story from afar, getting into CrossFit, being a coach, you're the owner at Opex Upper Main Line now, and obviously your obsession with coffee. I was like, man, I got to get connected and find out, what happened.
That's the real ticket right there, man. If you really get down to the granular piece, it just all comes back to that coffee creation. So
that and Peloton.
Of course, man. Those guys are great. That's like a whole podcast probably worth of talking about a great quality product and why they're awesome, and they're local too as well. So Peloton Cold Brew, gotta get it. If you haven't tried it, you gotta check them out. And that's a sponsorship free little plug right there for sure. So
absolutely. So, man, it's very last minute here because Snowmageddon was forecasted out of nowhere, and it's been a quiet day for you. It's a quiet day for me over here on this side too. So I was like, man, let me shoot him a message and try and get linked up because you're a busy guy. You got classes that are probably starting at 5 a.m. And going all the way through the end of the day, hitting those guys that are coming after work. So I appreciate the commitment on the short notice there.
Yeah, man, no sweat at all. And actually, I'm glad that you bring that up because part of what I will talk about too is obviously the little bit of the story of the in between. And I know you and I have mentioned that coming into this thing is really like we've got our connection pieces, and then really hearing more about what led us maybe to this point as well regarding me and the brand and fitness. And a big part of that is we'll dig into it here shortly, but we at Opex we actually don't do classes, but I will talk about how we fit into the market, which is an important piece. So I don't think you're the only person who is like kind of seeing it that way or evaluating it that way. So it's a good thing that that's something that from your perspective we can outline exactly where we fit in the unique scenario, because it's a big part of our brand and what we're trying to build.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're at Opex now, and you're the owner at Opex, and we'll get into how you got there. But so you don't have classes at Opex. It's just what's the structure there?
Yeah. So Opex Fitness is probably where we should start that conversation. And not necessarily how I landed here, but just from a branding standpoint, the easiest way that I can explain it is that Opex Fitness is personalized functional fitness. It's custom fitness programming and coaching, and it's completed in a community atmosphere, right? So, what I like to say to people, beyond that kind of short-term definition, is I like to explain it as though we're taking really the best of all worlds. We have a really upscale, clean environment, right? And there's some add-ons there. We're a micro gym for sure, but we have little pieces. We have a shower here, obviously, and we try to provide towels for our clients. We make sure the gym is clean. We make sure that people feel really welcome, and we try to almost take like a little bit of like a concierge. Like if you have a fitness concierge, that's kind of how we want to treat our people coming in. So I look at that from like the high-end health club type perspective, right? And that's like the front of our house and how we want to approach our clients, and really just make everyone feel premium, and also make everyone feel significant, right? And that's sort of like the entryway. On the back end, we've got really high quality fitness coaching from a team. I have 8 people on staff, but a team of professional coaches, right? So these are guys who aren't, selling cars by day and coaching a fitness class or a fitness training session in the evening. These are ladies and gentlemen who are committed wholly to the craft of coaching fitness, coaching nutrition, coaching lifestyle, and putting those packages together for people. So, that's client experience. In terms of where like we fit in, and to answer your question a little bit more specifically, you have Globo Gym, right? I would say less expensive option, not really a lot of direction, very convenient in terms of schedule. You show up when you want to show up, do your workout, and you leave. No excessive community element, no excessive direction element. But again, that's what you're paying for, and you get to access everything. The old mantra there is like those gyms make money off the people who don't show up, right? Whatever. That's not me quoting any data. That's just like kind of the thought process. If you move up the ladder a little bit, you have group fitness. And that's spanning everything from boot camp to Orange Theory to CrossFit to spin, whatever it is. All good things. Again, people are moving. They're doing something relative to trying to become a healthier, fitter version of themselves. And there's some discrepancy there between maybe quality of product, quality of coaching, but ultimately you do get the group environment, and there's a lot of fun within that. And there's also a lot of, there's a lot of camaraderie, right? Suffering together, doing the same things forges really strong bonds. There's no doubt about that. And again, there's some other questions there that are sometimes raised, which is like, are you doing all the things that you need to do in those models relative to what everybody else is doing, and where does that exactly fit in? Is intensity good for you every single day? Like, again, I'm just posing those questions as to where they sit within the model. From there, you slide up, and I think that's where Opex fits in. Opex is going to gather those elements of the Globo Gym that you like, right? Convenience of schedule, clean facility, premium type service, depending on where you are. And then, they're going to grab the community element of the group atmosphere, which is, bringing people together, keeping people connected, providing an environment that people can work out. And although they may not all be doing the same thing, they have this tight-knit, relationship between their coach, between other members of the community, and it's a really good feel, right? Everybody knows everybody knows your name, and that's really important when it comes to significance of why people will go to a micro gym to begin with. And then you go a step further, and you have highly qualified professional coaches taking care of your fitness programming, taking care of your nutritional components, and taking care of your lifestyle, managing emotions, managing some of your daily habits. We call them basic lifestyle guidelines. And then we're tracking all these things on a weekly and monthly basis through a really neat software program we use, and a lot of other people are using right now, called Fitbot. And so what we can do is we can actually look at the data on a weekly and monthly basis and see exactly where our clients sit within their progress on their journey. And then every single month, you as a client meet with your coach, and you go back over the goals, and you go back over where you sit right now, and you go back over any changes there might be. And then lastly, we're open 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. So it's like come whenever you want, right? You don't have to worry about making the 6 p.m. class or necessarily, who's coaching that class and how that's going to turn out. This is all those elements, right? Or what friends you have that go to the 5 p.m. versus the 7. And then lastly, you kind of go up one more notch and you have personal training, which gives you all the elements per se, depending again on the trainer, gives you all the elements of maybe what I just encompassed, but you're also, basically at the mercy of that person's schedule. And the time requirement relative to the price component. So personal training is going to be very expensive. And again, ultimately, are you learning anything there? Are you taking onus? It's arguable, but the end all is there's not a lot of longevity there because it's like how long can that go on without you learning something? And so what we've tried to do is create the perfect scenario that lives between those things, where you take all the good elements of a premium service, all the good elements of a community and fun setting, all the great elements of having your very own personal coach, and you combine them into one thing, and you have Opex Fitness. So,
yeah, right on. No, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds. So it reminds me of kind of like what I'm doing with some of my athletes and what I do with my coach. And we work together. I deliver them their plans. We use an online program. It's called Training Peaks, probably very similar to Fitbot.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt.
And everything is very specialized. I mean, my coach knows shit about me that like even some of my closest friends don't know about me, because it's just part of the business, and if I don't feel like working out one day or I don't feel like training one day and it's more than I just don't feel like it, it's like I'm tired, physically tired, there's things that we got to share with one another. So it's kind of like a whole soup to nuts, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I think that's the evolution, right? Is like we, and I talk about this a lot, and just because I came from it. So it's like, for me, I and we'll talk more about my experience, I guess, in my journey, but using CrossFit as an example, because I came from CrossFit, there's so many good things about it, and especially coming in when I was just starting out, and I think this experience probably resonates with a lot of people who are involved in that model as well, is just you come into something that really you've just never felt before, and it's great, and you feel like almost a sense of full vulnerability because it kicks your ass and it exposes some things about you, and you could go in there, and I can't tell you how many times this would happen when I was coaching CrossFit. It was like people come in, they're like, yeah, okay, I do this, or I can do this, or I used to do this, or I run all the time, so this won't be a big deal, or I'm strong, bro, I got this, right? And a lot of times like these people are fit, but like the degree of fitness that they have just maybe isn't isn't up to par yet with the level of intensity that they're going to go through, or the skill development that they need to have for the requirement, and that's all good in the beginning. But then, just as you said, right, these personalized elements of that person who's going to show up 4 and 5 times a week, and nobody's going to tell them otherwise, and they're going to show up and they're going to do it as hard as they possibly can, because make no mistake, man, there's results for sure within intensity. But how long does it take before, especially in the general population sense, right? I'm not talking about elite athletes especially, but like in the general population sense, how long does it take before someone's maximum extreme efforts at highest possible intensity on a daily basis become a bunch of medium efforts? You know what I mean? Like it just won't work. And so without that personalized touch, I'm not telling you that people aren't making progress or getting better, but I'm just telling you that maybe the margin is smaller. And I'm also telling you that what we don't know is if on the long game, like, are we messing them up in ways that they can't predict long term? Are they excessively overtrained? Is that affecting their body's ability to function? Are they wired and tired? Like, you don't know in the group model or the Globo Gym model because you lack the personalized touch, and then because of that, you probably, you I'm just gonna say you don't help the individual to the fullest extent that you possibly can. You provide them with a great framework, but maybe we're actually disservicing them because some of the time we should be telling them to rest. Some of the time we should be fixing their lifestyle guidelines before we just dose them with Fran or ultra marathon or whatever the sport may be. It's just kind of my thoughts around that. So I think individualized training, and you're seeing more and more of it, is the next evolution of functional fitness. How that's going to be replicated and done, I don't know yet, but I know that Opex as a brand is here, and not only have they and therefore we been doing this now a long time, but we also specialize in it. So, for me, it's like I welcome the concept of other models taking on individualized programming and the individualized approach for their members. Sometimes they're mostly at an additional cost. I see those things go on. But regardless of any of that, it's hard to deliver on something that you're basically spitballing as a result of a new product hitting the market. It's like gyms starting to offer yoga and like endurance type things, and it's not exactly their specialty. We all know what kind of happens in that sense. Is like you're basically chasing all these services around, and you lose sight of what you're really good at to begin with. So as Opex, we're just really good at customized fitness, personalized coaching, and providing a great experience and a premium experience for the client while we do it.
And so to just step back a little bit, you actually started at CrossFit. So you started at CrossFit Explode, which is over in Westchester.
Yep.
And to take a step back from there, you came from an education background and a teaching background, and went into CrossFit. Now, did you go into CrossFit as an athlete first and then a coach, or was it kind of both simultaneously? How did that evolution kind of unfold?
Yeah, so I'll try to kind of roll through it here quickly. I went to Susquehanna University where I played football. Prior to that, I played every sport you can possibly think of growing up. Was always active, always an athlete. And leaving college, I got a job teaching at Souderton High School, and I actually started, for being technical, I actually started at CrossFit Apex, which is up in Souderton. Great crew there, extremely, extremely knowledgeable, and I was very, very, fortunate to have such an awesome, intro, because these are people who really, really focus on quality movement and quality technique and the really, really the basic importance of things. And then they also taught me a lot as a coach coming in as to how to make sure people are doing what they need to be doing within that class, right? So like that resonated with me so well because of the teacher aspect of who I was. It was exactly aligned with differentiation, right? Not everybody needs the same thing. Everybody just needs what they need. Right, and that's all the same things you're learning coming out of college. This is exactly how you really reach the individual, and you can do that in a classroom, and that's going to be most effective. And then you just roll that into how I stumbled upon CrossFit Apex. I was teaching, and Josh Wagner, one of the co-owners there, him and his wife Tanya, and their partner Keith Bussum. Can't say enough good things about those guys. Sort of introduced me to that world. When I came into that world, I was just a dude looking to get fit. I was running all the time and fucking hated it. I was on this 7-mile loop twice a week and probably doing some circuit training that didn't really mean much, but obviously I had some experience training in college and whatnot, so I was just throwing things together and sort of entering the world of adulthood as to what you do, right? It's I'm going to run 5Ks and whatever it is. And so I found a lot of enjoyment and this whole new training style, like it just literally lit me up, man. I was like, I can't get enough of this, and that was in 2011. And along the same lines, again, young guy, really doesn't know what I'm doing, just a lot of heart, a lot of work ethic, and picked up CrossFit quickly in terms of skill development and just having a big engine. And I wound up doing the CrossFit Games Open that year, like a month or two in. It was the first one ever. And I didn't even know what it was. It was just kind of like, can you do this? And it was like, yeah, I think so. And then you try a workout, and then you do the next one. And then you realize you have all these holes in your game, and you need to make improvements, obviously, along the way. So I got a little taste of CrossFit Games regionals that year. We qualified a team and took a team down, and I was lucky enough to be on that team. When I was there is actually when I met Emily and my wife Emily, and who was also at CrossFit Explode, and Brian Quinlan, the owner of CrossFit Explode, and we just kind of we all kind of bonded, had a good relationship, and that summer I got the job that I had at Souderton was a short-term substitute position, and I wound up getting a contract at Westchester East High School, therefore moving me down that way. So it was awesome. I was really excited about it because Emily and Brian were so good, especially, and I knew that the environment that Brian had built at Explode was just lethal, man. The guy, in terms of programming and just developing some real animals in the sport, and also, to be honest with you, the approach, mentally and physically, I learned, short of what I know, and maybe my approach now, I learned everything there is to learn from that guy, and it's about how you treat people, and it's also, about how you approach the game. I think maybe some of the differences in the thought, school of thought maybe now is just having like a slightly different approach based on some of what I learned going through some of the Opex training and maybe my experience with that. And that's kind of that's my thing too as well. And I think there's a lot of coaches who are out there like that, but I also respect any coach who isn't. My thing is, like, I'm not married to one singular concept. Like, I just want to know, like, how I can make somebody better. And so for somebody that might be doing bicep curls and going for a walk, and for somebody else it might be doing 21, 15, 9 thrusters and pull-ups as fast as you possibly can. Like, so for me, it's just always been about exploration of that journey and that concept. And so, yeah, I spent a really long time at CrossFit Explode, and it was there too that I was really again, I was around great athletes, great coaching, great people, great environment. I got to take a little a role in that myself in terms of developing the culture and being a leader in that community. And I had some real success as an individual athlete there. I had quite a few years there in a row where I qualified for CrossFit Games regionals individually. 2012, I went individually. And 13 and 14, CrossFit Explode had a team that won the regional that year, and we participated at the 2013 and 2014 CrossFit Games in the teen division. And I can truly say, that was those were some of the absolute most fun and best years of my life as an athlete. And I've had some additional experiences athletically. The National Pro Grid League was a short thing that I got to be a part of that sort of introduced me to Opex in that world. And then from there, wound up with one more stint kind of on a team at the super regions now that, the game of CrossFit continually gets more and more competitive. So that was like, in a nutshell, the big time evolution and the big time journey. At that time, and I bring that up, is it's actually a good little segue, is like, I coached people, and I was a good coach. I have no doubts about that, and I'm happy. I feel good about standing behind that. But at that time in my life, being, to tell you the truth, man, it's like I loved it, but I was an athlete, and that's that. It's like there are people who are athletes, there are people who are non-athletes. There is a line between those two things. Sometimes that line gets muddled. But for me at that point, I loved coaching and I knew it was my long game. But at the time, it was all about, how do I get to the next stage? How do I get to the next step? How can I push myself to be better? So during that time period, I was also teaching at Westchester East High School, and it was sort of this string of 3 years that I really started to, lack of better terms, I just started to hate my job. And I think a lot of that had to do with being pulled in two different directions, wanting to be able to put my time into training and helping people where I could in terms of coaching, and just being a part of this environment where people wanted to be better and would show up every day like with that mindset. Going to school in the morning and teaching high school and kind of going through the rigmarole that was just ate away at my heart, man. And it was really hard to balance both pieces of the lifestyle, because not only was it a grind, physically and mentally, and the time that I put in, but one day I just woke up and it was like I can't do this anymore. So that was a big time step for me, and a lot of that had to do with people always tell me, they're like, man, I don't know how you did it teaching, but it wasn't. It was never the kids.
Yeah.
A lot of that had to do with kind of just the infrastructure and a lot of the politics and legislation that goes into it. And I just stopped seeing the authenticity within that. And I felt like I couldn't do what I set out to do, which was connect with people and help kids. I felt like it was just overcame and became this big state testing every minute, and what's next, and how the Harrisburg's sending this down the line, and there's going to be this new policy, and it was just like, it was overwhelming, man. Like, and my heart just kind of slowly faded out of that, and I wasn't doing anyone a service there either.
Well, and it's so like the teaching thing, like, I mean, hey, listen, I went to school for health and phys ed. Like, my girlfriend's a first grade teacher. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, I went through the whole education piece, and I feel like there's always somebody who's breathing down your neck saying, like, you can't say that, or no, don't do that way, do it this way. And like, it's really difficult sometimes. It depends on the circumstances, the school, and everything else. But I think it's really hard to put your own personal spin on things to an extent. Like, yes, you can kind of bring your personality into it, but like you were saying with the testing, and, the Harrisburg is saying you have to meet this, and this requirement.
Yep.
There's really no way for you to kind of make it your own. And I'm sure that when you were coaching after school, you had the ability to design those workouts and make things your own and put your own spin on it, and work with your athletes. And, you had a little bit more freedom when it came to coaching versus when you were teaching.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, like I said, I mean, it stems from all angles. It's like, you want to work with people who want to be there. You want to work with people who want to help themselves. You want to work in an environment that's super supportive and where everybody has kind of a similar mindset. And there was a big time disconnect, as I think there just is in any, dare I say, corporate setting, right? It's like, I know it's not a corporation, but it is kind of. And that just didn't fit my lifestyle, my mentality anymore. And it actually, I mean, it built up so much inside of me that, I mean, I resigned mid-year. And that was it, man. And I didn't have a plan at all, like zero plan. I'm gonna figure it out, and that's kind of what I did. So I moved into the world of doing a lot of personal training and coaching every CrossFit class I could possibly get my hands on, and working dusk till dawn, and being the happiest guy in the world because I didn't have to put a shirt and tie on anymore and go sit in a building for 8 hours a day that I just couldn't breathe in. Like I said, that was such like a stagnance feeling for me, and I just felt like they say, if you're not growing, you're dying. Like I felt like I was dying inside, being in there. And so, like I said, it's easy for me to turn around and say like, well, it was because of this or because of that. I mean, those were all factors that weighed in on my decision, but at the end of the day, it was me. Like I was just stuck in a place that I didn't feel like was the right move. But if I hadn't have learned the skills that I learned with being a teacher, or how to manage groups of people and how to manage behavior and how to individualize and differentiate, then I wouldn't be where I am right now. And I wouldn't have the skill set that I have right now and be able to connect with, every type of personality that, you come across. So it's like, was it a waste? Absolutely not. Like, no way. It's probably one of the biggest shapers of who I am now and where I am now. And the newest challenges are, figuring out how to, it's like in phases. You can wake up one day and you can realize your passion, and then you can ask yourself, what's holding you back from making that your life. And I would say that the minority percentage is willing to take that leap and take the risk. It's not for the faint of heart, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But you also have to understand and remember that it is a grind. Not to sound cliche, and that ultimately too, it's like that part when you're making that step or you're taking that leap. Man, that's the beginning. That's not the end game at all. And so it's being able to wake up 4 or 5 years removed when that grind and when that dream becomes the norm, and it's not shiny anymore, and it's not sexy in terms of like, hey, I don't have to go to school anymore and wear a shirt and tie and hate my life, but more or less like I love my life, but how do I keep growing, and how do I keep moving the needle on this thing, and how do I keep inspiring the people around me? And additionally, a simple thing to live by is, how do I wake up energized every day, and how do I go to bed every night fulfilled, and how do I live my dream in between? And that comes directly from a mentor of mine, Ed Fordyce, and his brand, the Inspired Tribe. But it really resonates with me, and that's the big picture is, you've got to seek growth. You've got to seek, new ways to always get better. And more importantly, you can't lose sight of the basic parameters of that, which is, why we're here in the first place. And everybody has their own mission, and maybe, knowing your why and the alignment that you have around that. But additionally, you can know your why, and you can get caught up in the stress and the monotony and the challenges that life throws at you daily. But you really have to be good at reflection and understanding gratitude. And I think if that's like a lifelong practice, you're going to be able to answer those questions I brought up a minute ago with a lot more of a clear outlook. And that's a big part of what I try to do. It's not always easy. It's a day by day thing. But wake up energized for your why, and go to bed every night with a sense of fulfillment. And in the in-between, make sure you can answer the question, am I living my dream?
And so when you were going through college, you, and even before that, you didn't always have that like burning desire to work for yourself. So you weren't that rebellious type who, could never hold a job down, couldn't have a boss, didn't like being told what to do, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't know. I've thought about that a few times, because it's like, I don't think that anyway, but I have a couple of friends who kind of view me in that way. It's like, you're a wild card, man. You're a little bit of a wild card. And here's what I think. I think that what enticed me to go down the path of being a teacher and kind of pursuing education was not only just the pure concept of, I'm going to be able to make an impact in the lives of young people, but it was also exactly what you said before, is like my perspective and perception, which is everything, as I went through school, was like, this is where I belong. I'm in this, I'm just kind of in this path where this is a world that I can succeed in and I can thrive in because of my personality and my ability to connect. And I see the need for people to have good role models, and I had good role models. And I felt like, this is a place I can fit in, and I can still be attached to sports. I can coach, and I saw all those things, and the people that I looked up to on that road kind of doing those things. I had great teachers that I really liked, and, you kind of pal around with. And that always made your day a little bit better. And then I had really, good, for the most part, I had good, coaches in school going through sports that, like, really made an impact on my life and how I work and what I'm able to endure. And, they really did a number on shaping my mindset and my approach. And I felt like, hey, I can kind of join that club. And a big part of joining that club, though, is like, hey, summer's off, right? And I'm in my own classroom, man, and, like, that's my shit. That's my show. But as it turns out, that's not the case. So I think my spirit was always that sort of in that same category. I don't know if you would call it entrepreneurial then, but my spirit was always kind of like, listen, like, I want to be free to run things the way that I need to run things. And to be honest with you, Ian, like, maybe that is what absolutely, like, drove me out. Is like, yes, it was the things that I brought up in terms of the content of, like, what annoyed me or what was a struggle or what I felt like was overwhelming, where you couldn't have a teachable moment anymore. You couldn't, like, it's just not enough time in a day to, like, not be teaching towards some sort of standardized test or something. And God forbid an administrator walk in your classroom while you're, having a life coaching type of moment with a student. It's like, that to me maybe drove me out. Is like, I wanted the flexibility to do. That's what I mean about having the carpet pulled out from under me. Is like that aspect I enjoyed, right? Is like, look, I'm going to go at this thing every day with the approach to inspire these kids to be awakened to their purpose, and try to make an impact in their lives the way that somebody made an impact in mine. And if I hit a fraction of that individual, or I hit a fraction of that group, and I can steer them in a way that they didn't have that structure before, they couldn't relate to somebody else before, or whatever it was, and I saw those things when I was in other schools prior to going to Westchester East. And you said it, right? It depends on the building, it depends on the district, whatever it might be. But for the most part, it's a lot of the same common themes. And just over time, I think that part wore on me, and I just felt like maybe it was that rebellious sense, like, I don't want to work for anybody else. Like, I got a vision, and, like, if I can't execute that vision, like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar experience. I was working at Hopewell Elementary as a long-term sub, and I mean, like, looking back, this was completely the fault of the teacher who I was in for. Like, why would you ever give the long-term sub, regardless of their background, why would you ever give them the drugs and alcohol, like, section for health? Like, that's just not a good idea. Like, but so, and he gave it to me, and I was like, you know what, like, fuck it, I'm gonna roll with this. So I did, and so of course we get to, like, like, we're hitting, like, the hard drugs and whatever, but we get to alcohol, and I stood in front of these kids and I was like, listen, here's the thing, alcohol is bad for everyone that is sitting in this room, because you're underage, your bodies are underdeveloped, et cetera, et cetera. And I talked to them about that. I said, but listen, don't go home and start flipping out on your parents and telling them alcohol is bad because they're sitting down and having a beer with their dinner. Like, it's a completely different ball game. Well, some kid took that, spun it, ran home, told her dad, who was the cop who came to school for the DARE program. Next thing you know, the principal's like, so what is this? I hear about you telling kids that alcohol is not bad. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not how that went at all. And she's like, the principal's like, well, let's just avoid the topic. And I'm like, well, that's exactly what's wrong with this, like, society. You know what I mean? Like, oh, let's avoid the topic because somebody got offended, So, I mean, like, I totally feel your pain. I understand what you're saying about how, like, no, don't do that. Somebody's, like, shaking their finger at you all the time. It's not a good scene. That's for sure.
Yeah, dude, and it's like I said, I mean, it's a deep rabbit hole because at the end of the day, it was me. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it was me. It wasn't the external pieces. And that's kind of what I was getting at, is like all that stuff I think amounted up. And you're 100% right. I mean, I got stories for days about those types of instances where you're like, wait a second, what team am I playing for here? Because I'm not sure that this is really how the world works, but okay, Mm-hmm. but that being said, look, you can either adapt to that approach, which I saw a lot of my colleagues doing, and I also saw just a lot of whatever you want to call it, emptiness, blank, I'm checked out, but I just collect my check kind of things. And I'm not saying that in a critical fashion or like I'm judging the situation, but it's like at some point your hand is forced, and if you're not willing to make the leap, listen, I respect it. You know what I mean? I would never criticize somebody for, what they're doing to take care of the people that they love and to take care of themselves. That's not how I mean it. I just meant for me personally, I was in a position where, luckily I didn't have a family. I didn't have kids. I didn't have major responsibilities. So I made that decision before things got any deeper. And, again, it made me who I am right now, and gave me great experiences to build on. And now I sit, in this position on a journey to building something probably bigger than I ever imagined.
Well, and you built something before as well. So you left CrossFit Explode,
yep.
And you launched Union Forged Fitness.
Yes.
And that was based out of where? I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So Union Forged Fitness, and it was CrossFit French Creek. So that was my journey away from CrossFit Explode. Emily and I, kind of made the decision, and we were going to take on some business partners and basically open this gym in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. And so it was right in downtown Phoenixville. And we were there. We built a great little community in a short amount of time. And, right around the 2-year mark is when, I started to, like I said, it's really twofold. But we had a lot of success there. I don't want to discount that. It was a great place, and I love everybody who was there and that I worked with, and I wish that every one of them could have joined us on our kind of next phase or next journey, going in the direction of Opex. But yeah, the long story short is just essentially that I had business partners, and there arose a time in the partnership where I wanted to buy them out. And I would just say that their assessment of the company's value was incorrect. And so it really left me no choice but to do what I did. Additionally, though, and this is like how things happen, Ian, right? You can understand this. It's like I was in a tough spot because I didn't want partners anymore. And the partners were in Harrisburg. And to be honest, there wasn't a whole lot of support from their end, but that's fine. That's not me criticizing them so much as it is just I knew what I signed up for, but at the same time, it just seemed a little, silly that was that was really what was holding up, our relationship going forward. So, here I built this thing from the ground up, literally. Took a warehouse that I don't even know if it would pass health code inspections if somebody inspected it before I took it over, and for the most part, cleaned this thing, painted this thing, did everything under the sun, and then ran it like it was my own from day one, and then because that was always the goal, and they were aware of that, and so when it came time, and this is kind of the order it went in, is I wanted to buy it. And, some things in life happen for a reason. I can tell you that I made them an offer that no one on the planet would refuse, except for them. And I'm glad they did. And shortly thereafter, I get a big, basically, billboard in my face that says, hey, listen, you can be an Opex fitness facility, and we're starting our licensing program. And the backstory to that is I'd been asking the CEO of the company at the time, who is now the founder. There's a new CEO, but I had been asking the CEO of the company at the time, who I have a really close and good relationship with, hey man, is there ever going to be a day where I can be an Opex gym? Like I didn't even know really what that question meant, but I had milled it over with him, and we had some interesting conversations, but never a lead in that it was like on the way, let's say. So ironically enough, man, I'm going through all this bullshit with my partners, and this sort of comes out of left field, and I'm like, look, this isn't. I mean, there's no situation where the price that they want for this facility is going to line up with the fact that I could go down the street and build something for myself.
So your partners in Harrisburg, were they basically just financial partners? They were just the money, or were they were? I mean, because they weren't there at Union Forge, like. It's not like you had. It wasn't like you and 3 buddies who were like, "Yo,
nope,
we like this CrossFit Explode is cool, but we want to do our own thing. So the 3 of us, let's just pull our money together and start a new gym." That's not the case.
Not the situation. No, it was. I was basically connected through a friend of mine, great dude, and he just kind of connected me to some buddies of his who were kind of doing this on a small scale, finding good people and trying to, help them start a, fitness facility. And again, I think that it was a great move for me because I got a lot of experience, and I'd like to sit here and be like, well, had it worked out the other way, but this is the way it was meant to work out. And so, look, there were some things that they helped me with for sure, and I'll never be able to discount that or discredit them for that. But ultimately, if we're talking about a big picture, yes, to answer your question, there is certainly, like I said, I mean, they're not bad guys. It just didn't shake out how the way I saw it and the way they saw it, and that's fair. They had skin in the game too, so whatever equity that I had against theirs was, it was an easy thing for us at the end of the line. Like I said, it may not have been something that the way that I wanted it to go at the time, but I also, and they understood this too, is I had the opportunity to walk, and they allowed that to happen. So I will tell you, there is still a gym in Phoenixville. It's not my gym, and it's not Union Forge Fitness. So
that was going to be my next question. Yeah. Is Union Forge still around? But okay, we got the answer to that one, and you don't have to say any more.
It's mine. No, yeah, I mean that answers your question. Is like that was some of the ironic piece of the whole thing is I own the name, so whatever. You know what I mean? That sounds sour, but it's not. But yes, Union Forge came with me, and I still hold it very dear to my heart. And for me, it's almost it'll always be a part of who I am, and the mentality that went into developing that brand for the short time that we had it. Listen, man, I mean, it's I say this a lot, dude. It's like, it is admirable. Trust me, it is admirable and commendable. You want to have the thing that you put your stamp on. But I'm doing the same thing here, and I'm doing it in a big way. And when this Opex thing first rolled out, and look, let me go back and say this, man. Like I got no, I don't wish any kind of negativity or anything around that partnership that I had. It went the way it went, really, if you reflect on it. And there may have been some major difference of opinion, and for sure, man, like any human being is going to say like that was frustrating. So you can sense that there's some frustration there from me, but at the end of the day, dude, like this was the best thing that ever happened, right? Was going in this direction. So hey, it all worked out, and for that reason, it's like I know that I'm in the place that I needed to be in, and so I can't hate everything about the situation, because if it would have went the other way, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. Hang on, man. I think my mic kind of wigged out here. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good on my side.
Yeah. Cool. So, enter Opex, right? Which is, again, like I said, just a great, really exciting avenue that I've been a part of the Opex coaching community at that point, 2016, for a few years. So I had been through the Opex coaching certification program, which is, at minimum, it's a year-long program. It's accredited, and basically there's 5 modules that you have to go through as a coach. So a lot of coursework, some like really legit testing, and really, to be honest, I mean, I learned everything I needed to know from that certification program. If we're talking about fundamental coursework relative to, and again, man, this is no bash. This is just what I know comparatively relative to, let's say, a CrossFit Level 1 weekend, right? That is no criticism. That is just an observation comparison, if that makes sense. So I felt really, really fulfilled about that as a coach, because I felt at that point I was starting to really, my days, let's say, as an athlete were numbered in a sense, just because, look, I can still throw down, no doubt about it, but the field is so good, man. And I was really lucky to play the game when I did, and to be able to perform at the level that I performed at. And so I felt really fulfilled with my career athletically, especially within the sport of fitness. And it was time for me to move on and build a business, and time for me to own that leadership role and that coaching role, and sort of whatever may come from that. So Opex gave me, I already had the background knowledge as to the model and the coaching and what it looked like in person, as I had been to their headquarters numerous times and actually spent a summer out there training. Their headquarters are in Scottsdale, Arizona. They've been a company since 1999. They just started to license, basically around that time that I'm talking about. So we were one of the first 10 or 15 facilities in the world. And, we just surpassed our first year here, with a lot of success. And to be honest, this is like the hands down, no-brainer, best decision I've ever made in terms of both fulfillment and, I feel success in terms of allowing me to really make this coaching thing a professional thing, and to kind of really build the vision and the brand and the dream that I have. And so, because of that, there was a point where it was like, man, I'm just going to throw this Union Forge fitness thing in the trash, basically. And you know what, man, I took a deep breath, and once I realized that it's a brand is great, right? But unless I was going to be able to turn Union Forge Fitness into Invictus Fitness, or CrossFit New England, or one of these bigger, massive facilities that absolutely crushes it, probably when I got to the market, or probably just in this area, I knew that was going to be tough. So I just evaluated, and I said, look, this Opex thing is really what I believe in. It's really what I'm behind. I gain the most fulfillment from it, and I really believe that it's the best thing for people. And furthermore, is it Union Forge Fitness that they buy, or is it Cody Loeffler that they buy and they get behind and that they believe in? So at the end of the day, it was an easy decision for me, and I then just inherited Opex Upper Main Line, and decided this is the route I was going. And it's been no turning back since, man. And I honestly, I could not be happier with where I sit right now today.
And I mean, today looking back, you say that it was an easy decision to go from Union Forged and just toss that in the trash and move on. Forget that, we're on to Opex. But at the time, was that easy?
Yeah, you know what? Listen, it was, and I'll tell you the story. So we were in when you decide to become a license of Opex, and this is something that I love too, right? Because again, comparing apples to oranges. CrossFit model, you can spend a weekend, you can get a certification. If you have a certification, you could spend $3,000-$4,000, get your affiliation, and then open up wherever it is that you see fit. And that could be literally next door to a CrossFit. And your only experience ever with CrossFit, period, could be that level 1 weekend. Okay. Again, not criticizing that for what it is, but I really personally, as somebody who views this as a profession, I really, really was keen to kind of how they were rolling this out, Opex, in terms of what they were requiring for their license owners, right? So like not anyone can just be an Opex license. There's a lot of prerequisite to that. Additionally to that prerequisite, you have to go through a 6-month period that is basically kind of like what they call their business accelerator, and it's going to be essentially, really, really in depth coursework and weekly calls with the CEO of the company, who is outlining procedurally and brand wise and really how you want to build this thing, not in the franchise sense, because you still have autonomy within your license, but laying the framework for everyone to have success from the get-go. And so you get this once a week, 6-month, personalized touch where you're in this small group of other potential license owners, and you really, really learn even more so about the business component and about, branding and about premium experience, and you get to feel connected to this other group of owners, and from day one you've got this immediate community. So I thought that was really cool. While I was going through our 6-month accelerator, one of the gyms in our group decided, because at that time it was so early, like you could be, back then it was like you could be, for instance, I could have chosen at that time, like, which may change, but I could have chosen to be Union Forge Fitness powered by Opex Upper Main Line, or powered by Opex, or something like that. And I didn't, my head was spinning at the time. I didn't exactly know how we were going to roll this thing out, nor was I thinking about the name, because I hadn't even had a facility at this point. I just knew, okay, what's this mean, right? And I'm kind of going through the process. And one of the people in our accelerator licensing group basically got on one of the calls and said, listen, this is who we are. And they, and I won't go into great detail, but they did just that, and then we said, hey, we're not this anymore, we're Opex such and such. And to me that kind of lit a spark, because I was like, hey, if they are that, right, then that changes the game. And that really means, like, the hell with my brand, right? Because nobody's gonna go find Union Forge Fitness and be like, oh yeah, cool, an Opex facility. Like, when it's going to take time to build, but when the brand tips, right, it's like, I was here all along, right? So it's like, for me, it was hard, but really the challenge of throwing away Union Forge Fitness overnight, if you want to call it that or reference it that way, just had to do with getting over my own shit and my own ego, in the sense that, hey, does it really matter, or can you go do this thing successfully under and fly the Opex flag proudly, which is what I was about. You know what I mean? So it's like, hey, if I'm going to say I'm in, man, I'm fucking all in.
Right.
And I think that's a characteristic trait, obviously, that that I carry probably across from everything, whether it's my training, my coaching, growing a business, whatever it is. It's all or nothing. And so this was no different for me, and it was just about getting on the train or getting the fuck off. And I talk about that a lot. And I think, if there's a lot of parallels there with success, with training, with hitting goals, with changing your life, is like, listen, you're either in or you're out, right? And you got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and answer that question, truly, and then evaluate where you are and where your progress is and where your results are. Because go back to alignment. If you're not in, but you're somewhat in, and you want to be on both sides of the fence, I can kind of draw the line and outline for you how I think that's going to end up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I can dig that too. And you were going all in on Opex, and so it just makes sense, to dump Union Forge. I just wanted to know, what was going on with you internally, as far as like that was kind of like your baby. Like that was the first thing that you built since leaving CrossFit Explode. And I wasn't sure if you had that emotional attachment, to Union Forged, as far as like, I really want to make this work. I really want to keep this.
Yeah, a little bit, but like I said, man, if I once I took a step back and kind of looked at the entire situation, um, you know, I look, Union Forged is who I am, regardless of the name. By any name, it's who I am. So it's always going to be with me. And my brand necessarily, and this is what I realized in that moment, if you're talking about it, what was going on with me internally, et cetera. I mean, I probably realized in that moment that that baby, was really just, it was a stepping stone to get to this moment. And if I'm following my heart in the process and I understand the vision, then, look, there's a reason why these chips fell into place when they did, and I had the opportunity to become one of the first Opex licensed facilities in the world. And I was, I was just lucky enough to kind of make that move. And even though, like I said, it'll always be a part of me, but I have, it doesn't, Union Forge Fitness did not define me, right? So if I'm being honest, that inability to get rid of that title is just my own ego getting in the way of what can be something even bigger, even greater, even more impactful, even more helpful. So it's just, I didn't see it any other way. And as soon as I got aligned with that, it was like, okay, listen, this is what we're doing. And it'll always be a part of my, mentality. And everybody who knows me knows that. So why Union Forge? Because, dude, it's the embodiment of what it means to work and never be outworked, and have that blue collar mentality and that blue collar approach to how you get people results and how you get people success and how you build a really great brand and a really great team, but also the ability to deliver the white collar service to people and treat them in a really premium way that makes them feel significant and makes them feel like they're in the place for them.
Now, up at Opex, I know you have a bunch of coaches who are working with you up there and working with some clients and everything. But as far as the day-to-day stuff goes, is it just you and Emily? I mean, are you there every morning at 5 opening up the doors and you're staying until closing every night? Or do you have some people in place now?
Yeah.
What did that, building phase of Opex look like?
Yeah, man. Early on, it was a lot of that, kind of what you mentioned there in the beginning. Is like anything, it's like you take, it's a massive undertaking. You're trying to make all of the parts of the machine work together, and to be honest, in the beginning, it's just a lot of inability to leverage time. So it's like you got to be the best coach you can, you got to be the best business owner you can, you got to be the best marketer you can, and you're sort of just flying by the seat of your pants. But when you're in that moment, man, you don't see it that way, right? So it's just, again, perception is everything, and when you know why you do what you do, man, like you cannot be stopped. So I really take a strong pride in having awareness around that, and even at the toughest moments. It's like a quote I read like 2 days ago, and we may not always be able to see light at the end of the tunnel, but it doesn't mean we don't go in. And that's like a big time approach around sort of everything evolving to this moment on a brand concept, like what I believe in and how I try to approach what I want my legacy to be. It's like that guy worked his ass off, so to get to the point, let's say where we are now, it took some grind, to be honest with you. It was like kind of like a flash, man. I remember, being basically just me and Emily managing everything there was to manage, just like anybody who's opening a business would do. So that's all maybe standard procedure. But then I also I remember just like one by one bringing on the staff that we have and turning that into something and building it. And like anything, man, it takes time to mesh. But I feel like we're like a machine now that has been assembled, and like we're just getting ready to start steamrolling. And it would be easy for me to say right now, like I just feel like we're a well-oiled machine. Listen, we're too early in the stages of business for me to tell you that. But I think that it's like the difference between good and great, right? And I think we do a lot of things well. And when I say that we're getting ready to steamroll, it's like I want to be on that level where we do things with such synergy that like it's just there's just like no denying the product or the service. And maybe that's what we've been building up to this point and how we got here. So I've been really, like I said, man, I've been really lucky. I've got some really, really big assets on this team, and cliche as shit, but people say, surround yourself with people who are better than you or smarter than you. Man, look, I am never the smartest or the most experienced person in the room with our staff meetings. But dude, I mean, that's just a nod to the fact that this is legit, and these guys treat this thing like it's their career, and that's what we wanted.
Yeah, but that's a nod to you too, and being humble enough to swallow that pill and say like I'm not going to be the best. Because if you had that thought in your head that you were always the best person in the room, nobody could top you, then I think that you wouldn't let your coaches live up to their full potential either, because you'd kind of be almost micromanaging them.
Yep.
Because your way is always better than their way,
right,
instead of being able to learn from your coaches. So I think that's a nod to you as well, as a manager and a coach, and a person, really.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I don't disagree with you, but again, I think like you probably heard me say it now like a broken record. It just comes back to that alignment piece, right? It was just like it's ever changing, and there was probably a time in my life where I thought I'm going to be the best coach in the world, or something silly, but at the end of the day, it's like if that were the case, you know what I mean? It's like you do. You spend your time and you do the things that you care about the most, right? That's like how we prioritize action. And so like, if that were the case and I were of that belief, my thought process and my approach would be a lot different. And I would be spending more time doing those things rather than trying to, being surrounded by such an awesome group and looking at it and saying like, where can we take this thing, and how are these guys big time role players in the success that we have. And they absolutely are. Like I literally could not do what I do without them, and I also know that because I have them and they're such a strong point in the foundation of this place, it's like it allows me to it has allowed me also to see the landscape a little more clearly and say, there was probably a time when I was like, just like there was a time when I was an athlete, and that was my primary focus. There was also a time where I was a coach, and that was my primary focus, and I needed to be, and I needed to live those evolutions over and over so that I can have a perspective and an understanding around them for how to build a brand and how to build like a successful team, and how to treat those people and make sure that, these guys will tell you, like, I care the most that they feel taken care of. It's like one of my biggest drivers. And I also have that in the priority line because this vision that I have, it stems so much bigger than this very moment, right? And they have to be a part of that, because they are who has made this place what it is. So their support and my support and the way that we work together has allowed me to see the game a little differently, and it will continue to evolve as I go and as we go, and as the business grows, because I'm going to need to be different things. And that's really my passion, if we're being honest, is, it's like I've got this great fitness business. And a big portion of our fitness business is to have great relationships with people, if not the most important part, right? And then there's all these other components, which is like lifestyle coaching and making sure nutrition and making sure we're getting people results and keeping the results in front of them. Have we missed out on some opportunities with people? You are absolutely right, man, because we're far from perfect. I take those losses and I try to learn from them. It's never like it's never something that's ideal or that you want, but you have to learn. And sometimes you have to have some of those pain points and those experiences to get past that and to become something you never were before. But I mean, ultimately, man, it's such a cool thing to watch this grow. And I've just recognized in the last 15 months that, like, that person who long ago, walked out of the classroom because it was like, I just want to coach people and help people and et cetera, et cetera. I've lived it already. You know what I mean? I've lived those evolutions. And now it's like that, having that self-awareness and saying, yes, I'm still those things and I take those things very seriously. I also have this other thing that drives me big time. And it's just a passion for growth and, evolving and becoming the best, the best brand that we can become, and really changing the game and changing the face of fitness in that sense. Because, like I said, no one truly is doing what we do. There's variations of it for sure, but no one right now specializes in that piece and that place in the market. So I do feel like we're early adopters and we're trying to move the needle on something and make the market more aware of it. Does that mean it's been more challenging? Absolutely, because I don't have all the tools that I don't have all the tools or the market awareness that you have when you open up. And again, I'm just using this because I come from it, a CrossFit, who's got a lot of marketing material available, who has a lot of message, ironed out, right? Is like, we're doing it on both ends. It's like I'm talking Opex HQ message, and I'm also talking Opex Upper Main Line message, because we do have that autonomy, and we do have our own specific message that is, of course, aligned with the brand overall, because it just wouldn't work otherwise. But at the same time, right? It's like, why do you come to Paoli to do this stuff? Well, there's a lot of places, like, you can go to a lot of gyms, right? But right now, there's one Opex that you can go to,
Right.
and you're only going to get what you get at Opex.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
it's, you can buy any car, but you can buy a Cadillac, right? It's like the same kind of mentality, but
Yep.
And that is, bringing it all back together. I mean, that is part of. I wouldn't be able to say that kind of thing now if I didn't have the team that I'm talking about.
Right.
And so,
Absolutely.
you go from those humbling moments where it's a constant, 16-hour day, and wake up, do the same thing, wake up, do the same thing, wake up, do the same thing, and then one asset comes along, and you realize, wow, I gotta keep this person around, and they're willing to go beyond their means and to start committing to the vision and help you, and then another one, and then another one, and now we've got this, like I said, all these cogs in place to really start rolling the wheel forward. And week by week, man, month by month, we just try to tighten up systems and processes, and kind of keep writing the script for what's going to make us that well-oiled machine. And I can't tell you exactly when that comes, but man, when that comes, and that time sort of hits and that wheel starts rolling, that's a really, really exciting thing for us, especially. And the great part is I'm going to have depth, if you will, in my roster of people who really understand the product and they get it, to to really start reaching out and maybe tapping into new markets and looking at other opportunities that exist, and how we grow Opex Upper Main Line and the brand that we have here.
Yeah. No, and I can't wait to kind of see the Opex Upper Main Line explode more than it is now, and like really, really take off. And next thing you know, there's an Opex a little bit further down this way towards, like Wilmington, Delaware area. And then
Yeah,
next thing you know, you got one popping up like out a little bit further towards like King of Prussia area, and like it's just watching it grow. It's going to be
yeah,
cool.
yeah, and that's not just through me, right? It's like there's going to be a lot of people kind of surfacing, and there already is, right? It's I think we're clearing, don't quote me on this, but 80 gyms worldwide right now. So it's cool, man. It's just really been a cool journey, and I know it'll continue to build on itself. And a big piece of that is like these types of opportunities, and just being able to express our message a little bit more intimately, which is what's great about podcasts and opportunities that I've had to do a couple of those. But educating the market, man, awareness is huge, right? It's like the first thing, and that's why I said it so right away was jumping onto the call and again, Ian, like you see my story a lot and a lot. It's basically just kind of a downfall in the sense that the market isn't educated enough yet, and I mean that in no type of way. It's like the battle that I'm fighting currently, so I get it. But it's like right away, one of the things you were saying, like you probably have classes, etc. If I can start to make the market aware of what the things that I get to do, and that's why I'm so appreciative of this opportunity. But if I can start to make the market aware around like, hey, listen, all those things that you love about your gym, like we do it, right? And we fucking nail it, right? You just got to come down here and check it out. And like, we've got it. We've got the community. We've got the fun. Like, if you came in here January last year, it would have been harder for me to tell you like, hey, we got the community,
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like, hey, man, we got a lot of people who love doing this stuff, and I'll be honest, a lot of them come from other fitness models, and not just group. A lot of people we work with come from the Globo Gym model. A lot of people we work with come from, some sort of personal training. And it all winds up to be a good fit because we meet them where they are today, and we also kind of show them the way relative to something they've experienced before. And that doesn't mean you can't come to Opex with no prior fitness experience. But, there's certainly some good parallels there, and we've got something for every single person, no matter what they're trying to do, what they're training for. We're a group of people who are really aligned with why we do what we do. We're really aligned with the mission, right, which is to inspire people through fitness to realize their purpose and sort of honor that purpose through their journey. And so, like, there's some deep connections stuff there that stems beyond the fitness program, but that is a big component of what we do. And then furthermore, if you want to define an Opex coach beyond the fact of, education and what they have to go through prerequisite-wise to earn that certification, and then ultimately the experiences that go in, the simplest way that I put it, because it's my definition, is, we are coaches who are purely interested in whatever it is that's going to get results and success for our clients. And that differs and varies client to client. It has to, right? Long term. We want longevity. We want health. We want, people doing things they didn't think possible when they're 80. And we want to work with them forever. And so your lifestyle, your goals, all those things are going to change over time. And like, it's our job to make sure that, we are helping you along the journey, right, as we call it, staying aligned with the things that are important to you, that are your priorities, that you care about the most, and helping you uncovering them, and then you using fitness as a medium for being able to pursue those things and being able to express those elements of your life. And it may not be that you're as passionate about fitness as I am, but there are great parallels between whatever you're passionate about and taking care of yourself in the proper way and having the guidance of a coach to get there. So, like I said, man, it's a lot of fun. We enjoy it, and we're going to keep helping people get better every single week and every day. So,
yeah, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. We went well over. well over.
Me, man. Anybody will tell you this. I have a tendency to extend the window of time when it comes to conversation. So
yeah. Well,
hopefully take too much of your time.
No, I mean, I'm good on this end for sure. And I mean, we had some slight technical difficulties,
Early
going
on.
in. So hey, that happens. But I mean, Cody, thanks again, man, for jumping on, especially on short notice, and really opening up about some stuff. And I know it was probably difficult at the time to make that decision when you came to the fork in the road about Union Forged and which way you were going to go. And
Sure.
the same with teaching. And I mean, those kind of decisions, looking back, hindsight's 2020, and
Yep.
you're like, no, I knew at the time, but it sometimes you don't know at the time, and you're like, man, what's going on? I don't know what to do. So I do appreciate you opening up about that stuff, and sharing that message and sharing that story along with the message of Opex and what you're trying to do right now.
Yeah, man, it was my pleasure. This was a lot of fun. I think you got a great thing going here with the podcast, and I'm just happy that you reached out and were able to bring me on today. It was great.
Absolutely, and hopefully I can get up to Opex and you can kick my ass for a little while here.
Would love to have you, man. You come up anytime. Just let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Cody. Well, thank you so much, man. Hopefully, if you guys do get out of there early, you guys get home safe with this impending snowmageddon coming in.
Absolutely, brother.
Appreciate it, man. All right, I will talk with you soon. That is it, my friends. That was my interview with Cody Loeffler. What did you think? Personally, my biggest point that I was focused on, that kind of really surprised me the most, was how Cody had the courage to walk away completely from Union Forged, which was something that he, really truly created. And, looking back, I know that he said that it was an easy decision because it was just something that had to be done at the time. But I simply can't imagine walking away from something that you've put so much effort into and that was kind of your baby. But I guess the bigger plan and the greater plan was what he was focused on, and sometimes that's what you need to do. So I would love to hear what your kind of favorite part of the episode was, what your takeaway was from Cody's episode and Cody's story. My friends, I do need some help from you because I can see the numbers. I can see how many listens we're getting per episode, how many downloads we're getting per episode, and the numbers for downloads versus the numbers for ratings and reviews on the Apple Podcast app are clearly not matching up. So I am asking of you, please, if you are listening to these podcasts and you are enjoying them, you're getting something out of them. In return, all I am asking for you is to take the 1 to 2 minutes to hit the 3, 4, 5, even 1 stars on the Apple Podcast app, and leave me that rating, or additionally, leave me the review. It's going to help me make this show better. And I am not charging for this. There's a whole lot of equipment and bandwidth and all kinds of other stuff that's involved for, creating this show. So I'm not asking for any help with that yet. And that's the only thing that I'm asking for you. So if you could do that for me, I would really, really appreciate that help from you. And on that note, I thank you for your support that you have given me thus far, and I look forward to seeing you here again next week.